So let's try to recollect what I did in the last episode. We were talking of writing JUnits, and we used Jmockit for that. And the first test program what we wrote for this one was simple mockit test.java, which you're able to see now. And what we did here is that we wrote a calculator class just to keep the logic very simple. All it does is that it does addition of two inputs given back, which are integers, right? And then it also does a multiplication of two inputs given, which are integers. And then this calculator method is called to a service match service, and match service does perform calculations and then it gives the result. Now we need to see how do we test the methods. So we also discussed that there are on a very broad level, high level, two ways to test. So on a very high level, we have a behavior-based testing and then a state-based testing. In the state-based testing, what we do is that we replace the actual methods with mock methods for the classes which are a dependency of the current method we are going to test. So that's why we used expectations as well as mock. But understand that here the diagram shows behavior-based testing expectations, but expectations can be used in state-based testing also. So that is why we had the testing of using expectations, which is shown here in the first one when we are using calculator. So, and in the expectations, what we are doing is very simple. We pass the instance of the class, a specific instance of the class, and then we call that method and just return a result. You have to understand in the new expectations here, we are passing the class. And then what happens is that when you call the service, it's going to return like 2 plus 3 is 5, right? And that is passed here, Python that is passed here. If we do assert equal, then we tested without any mocking directly. And what we observed is that this particular thing was impacting the real testing because we had not zeroed on which instance to use. What happens is that if you do not zero on which instance to use, we just give the class definitions, all the instances will be impacted. So what we observed is that when we were passing 1020, that was not 30, but it was 5. So we corrected that by doing those corrections, and then we also use mockup. In the mockup, we do not pass the instance of the class, but we pass the class type, and then we use @mock and we fake it, saying that if it's let it get any type of int. Remember here that we are now defining a method here. We say int AB and always return 999. It's returned mock return 999. And you see the return type is similarly here. And then we said assert, and then we said 999 and my calculator dot add. So remember this here also we are making an instance of the class by using new calculator, right? But we are not passing that to mockup. Understand that. So that's the difference between using mockup and expectations. So far so good. Now I'm going to come to a very important point today, which will be very useful to see how we get the coverage reports. So in order to get coverage reports, we have to use an extra library, right? So what is that library? There has to be something where we generate a XML. We are generating XML, and there has to be something which reads this XML and then generates report for us. So the question is, we get always is that what is Jacoco and how does it help us? So Jacoco is a library which actually helps us to find out how much code was covered when we did the testing, right? We wrote the JUnit tests and we mocked the dependencies of the method, and we gave inputs to the method, and then we got the outputs. It's not enough if we make the test pass. Whatever the expected condition. We also have to see that how much of this code was covered. So you will have some inputs like this inside your sonar, right? So that is where we need to have some library which will actually show us how much code was covered, and how much is not uncovered. So now, right now, what we are going to do is that we're going to add another library known as Jacoco to our form.xml, and then run the test and produce the HTML reports, which will appear something like this, which will show actually how much the code was covered and how much code was not covered. So let's start doing that. So this form XML previously had dependencies for JUnit, for Gym, and the Jmockit, and then we have Surefire Maven compiler plugin, and then we now have something known as Jacoco, and we're going to use this to find out how much code we have covered, and then we have reports, to produce the reports during the testing phase. And this is the Surefire plugin, which is taking the inputs, is taking the giving the inputs to Jacoco. This is the argument line, and then the Jmockit agent, and the Jmockit agent runs by clicking these inputs, and then I need to show you an important part here is that the Jacoco has the phases. The first phase is called as prepare agent, and then the second phase is report or test execution. So these are the two phases what we have here. So first is prepare agent, then test, and then report. So in prepare agent, we are going to uh, make sure that the agent comes up, and then the agent runs as soon as the testing starts, and then as soon as the testing is done, it produces a report. So we did have earlier Maven Surefire plugin, and we were let's compare this with a previous version. What was there in the local history? So if you see this side by side, the pom.xml, we had Jmockit here, we had Jmnet, and then okay, let's see this one because Jmockit is needed for us. So we have Jmockit here, the Maven Surefire plugin. Now you need to see this. We were using Java agent with Jmockit in the Surefire plugins, and now we've added extra plugin that is Jacoco. So the Jacoco is doing a prepare agent, and then it's going to run a report during the testing phase. So this is the basic difference between the earlier POM and this POM. In the Jacoco prepare coverage agent, we are preparing the agent here. The two things, very important things to understand this is that when we run the first GMNet, the GMNet is picked automatically. It picks up the code, from uh, the source test Java, which is shown here, right? Let's stop this. Let's come out of this. Compare. So we know that if the code has to be picked up from source test Java, then we have to have a JUnit sense it, and then after we do a JUnit testing, we have to make a report of how much code we actually covered. So for that, we did have Surefire reports, but we did not have something like Jacoco, which would take this and prepare an HTML report. So after that, now let's run this test uh, by clicking on Run Maven Test, and after we run that, it is going to show us on the console uh, the tests, right? And the test is passing now. And observe very minutely, pay full attention here is that we get a jacoco.exec. It's not a exe, remember this. Exec means it's a data file where it has all the data of the instrumentation. And now tools like Sonar reports refer this, and then we make an XML out of this, which I'll show you now here. If you go here, if you go on the target side, you will see something like XML report here. Now, if you see this, right click on the properties. It is an XML file. What does XML file consist of? So this is the XML file which is containing all details of how much code is covered and all that stuff. I'm opening this for you to have a look at this. So you have to remember this, that until and unless jacoco.xml is not produced, you will not be able to see the coverage. So I'm going to format this. Can I format this plugins, plugin admin? XML, XML navigator, XML tools. Let's have this XML tools installed. And then what it does is it does the installation of this, and then it restarts this. After it restarts this, uh, we can have a pretty print of this. So it's downloading the XML tools, and then it's installing this inside the Notepad++. It's going to give us back the XML tools, and then I have XML tools here. I can format this pretty print, and you can see this, right? These are the detailed data which a Sonar tool will use, to show the code coverage, like calculator coverage. It's showing line number 4, CI is equal to 3, CB is equal to Z, counter type instruction, mist is equal to 0, covered is equal to 11, blah, blah, those things. But I'm not going to go more deep into this. I'm simply going to show you how the HTML would look here. So let's go there, where you have Jacoco. Now here's the one which is very important, index. So this is overall report. Let's dig deeper inside this. It says that it's 2 are missed, complexity is 7, and the missed lines is 3 here, methods missed 2 in the method 7, and blah blah those things, right? If you open this and then you open the calculator, if you see calculator, right, you see that all the methods are covered here. Let's see now math service.java. So you see this is all highlighted by green, which means this we have touched this part of code when we are testing this. This code is covered for testing. This code is covered for testing. What was not covered was this one, which is right because we did not call any JUnits here for multiplication, right? So this is the JUnit here. Let's go back and see here. It shows very clearly that in our JUnit we never tested for the product. So Let me go back here and show you that. If you see here, most of the times we are, you know, using the addition method. We never used multiplication.